Hare Krishna. Can anyone hear?
I could say here.
Om Ajnanatinirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namah Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Chaitanya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gauravinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Jos joku tarvii käännöstä suomeksi, voi kääntää tässä vieressä huoneessa. Okay.
Hare Krishna. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody to this session on the Bhagavad Gita as it is. So this is we welcome you all to this Sunday Feast Festival, and we also welcome His Excellency, the Ambassador of India. So Lord Chaitanya has said, Bharat Bhumi Haile Manushya Janmaja Janma Sathaka Kari Kar. So if you're fortunate enough to have taken birth in the holy land of India, then it's your duty to perfect your life, Janma Sathaka Kari Kar Parokar, and then to help others. Not that you feel satisfied that, okay, I'm in India now, this is enough. No, you should help others out. Kar Parokar. So with that purpose, our spiritual master, Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, he traveled 11 times all across the globe, beginning in 1965. At the age of 71, he traveled all over the world, and he translated Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and many books. Around 54 books he translated, which were then translated into many other languages. But Srila Prabhupada based his teachings mainly on the Bhagavad Gita. So, of course, Gita, even to those who are born in India, is always a great mystery. We hear many things about you. If you are seeing the internet or if you read books, you'll see references to the Bhagavad Gita. People talk about Bhagavad Gita as a great mystery, as a great science, or the Vedas, or great relationship guide. Actually, Bhagavad Gita is all of this, but much more than this. In the Gita Mahatmya of Padma, it is said that the Upanishads are like a cow. Krishna is the cowherd. Arjuna is the calf. Gita is the milk. Gita is the essence of all Upanishads. The science of life is contained in the Vedas. All the knowledge. The word Veda itself means knowledge. All the knowledge of life is included in the Vedas. Upanishads are the essence of all the Vedas, and Bhagavad Gita or Gita Upanishad is the essence of the Upanishads. It's a 100-verse scripture which was spoken on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and it condenses all the science, all religion which is necessary for a human being to perfect it. The Bhagavad Gita. So before we go into the content of Bhagavad Gita, because we don't have sufficient time today, before we go into the content of Bhagavad Gita, I would just like to briefly, describe the moment the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, so that you can understand to whom Bhagavad Gita is spoken and what is the importance of Bhagavad Gita. So you can imagine the scene. It's 5,000 years ago, and there's a great battlefield. And this battlefield, the greatest families of India of all the world actually, are arraigned against each other. It's a great fratricidal war which is about to start. Many years have passed. In fact, 13 years the Pandavas have waited for this moment, and now it has come. They are going to have their rightful kingdom back. I wouldn't use the word revenge because Pandavas were too generous for such thoughts, but they are going to have their justice. And now at the moment when the battle is about to begin, Arjuna sees in front of him his grandfather, his beloved teacher. He sees all his brothers. And not only that, he sees so many innocent kings who had nothing to do with this injustice. There are fathers-in-law, there are friends, all the people that Arjuna knew. And he also understands that in this battle, anyone will be killed. And not only that, because he is favored by the Lord himself, he will be the instrument of their killing. So you can imagine the consciousness or the condition that Arjuna is facing right now. That his consciousness is, what are his fears, what are his emotions at this moment. So this is so you can imagine and how painful it is when the doctor comes and says you can just say your final goodbye. And how painful it is, a very dear one, a child, a mother, a father, someone. And here, Arjuna is not only being told to say his final goodbye, but he's also being told that he has to kill them. So you can imagine how much more aggravating the circumstance is for Arjuna. So that is the position, that is the situation in which Bhagavad Gita is spoken. So you can see the urgency of Bhagavad Gita. It is going to be followed by a great action. So this is the importance of Bhagavad Gita. And it applies to all of us. Because sooner or later, all of us are going to face grave situations in our life. The moment of death is very painful. So Gita prepares us to face the most dangerous moments in our life with the knowledge of philosophy and religion. So 500 years ago, when Lord Chaitanya was living in northern India, in Prayag, a great saint, Srila Sanatana Goswami, approached him. Srila Sanatana Goswami was a great personality. He was a scholar of Persian, Sanskrit, and economics, and he was a minister in the government of Nawab Hussain Shah of Bengal. And he was a great scholar of Sanskrit and Vedas also. But he posed this question to Mahaprabhu. He asked, "Who am I? Why do the miseries of this world affect me so much? People call me a great scholar, and I am such a fool that I accept it." And with this begin the teachings of Mahaprabhu. But this is the most relevant question that every intelligent man should ask. Who am I? If you ask anyone, they will say, "Oh yes, I am so and so, I am Mr. so and so, I am Miss so and so, I am a doctor, I am an engineer, I am the president, I am the prime minister." But who were we 50 years ago, 100 years ago? Who will we be after 50 years, after 100 years? We are so and so for the 50-60 year period of our life. Human lifespan is around 80 years in the present age. But before that and after that, we have no knowledge. Who are we? That is the question with which Bhagavad Gita begins. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuya ajo nitya shashvato yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. We are unborn, we are eternal, we are undying. We have never taken birth, we'll never die. Once having been, will never be extinguished. The position or the condition of the body does not affect us. The soul is the living principle within the body. And that is where the Bhagavad Gita actually begins. That we are the eternal living principle within the body. When the body changes, the soul does not die. We do not die. In fact, that's the reason why we feel fear of death. Because we are eternal. If you are, say, most of you are coming from India, you fear the cold of Finland. Because you're accustomed to living in warm countries. This climate becomes alien to you, so you feel fearful. Or if you are a Finn, you go to India, You become fearful of the hot summer weather there because you are accustomed to living in cold. So, as souls, we are accustomed to never dying. As spiritual beings, we are accustomed to never having seen death. Therefore, the horrific condition of leaving this body is painful to us. It's very fearful to us. And that's why there is no living entity in this universe who does not fear death. So human life actually begins when there is inquiry. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. When you inquire about the soul, that is where human life begins. Krishna explains in the 13th chapter that detachment from material life and attachment to the higher principles of life, especially into the inquiry of the nature of soul, that is the beginning of education. Everything else, Krishna declares to be ignorance. All the knowledge of science, politics, economics, engineering, medicine, technology, they are all categorized as ignorance if there is no knowledge of the soul. You go to a university, you can play sports there, you can be a part of the cultural club, you can take part in so many extracurricular activities. But if you do not complete your core education, you will be considered uneducated. So in this world, if you come as human being and you acquire all the knowledge of this world, science, technology, everything, but you do not inquire about the soul itself, then your knowledge is temporary. It's hovering on a platform of mind and body, and it is ignorance. Because as soon as this body is finished, the knowledge will also be. So therefore, the Bhagavad Gita exhorts us to first understand the true nature of life, that is, the soul. Who am I? The science of the soul and its purpose of existence, that is the Vedas. That is called knowledge. That is Veda. And the essence of that Veda is the Bhagavad Gita. So, Bhagavad Gita essentially covers 5 factors. So, today I'm just going to tell you briefly the outline of Bhagavad Gita, what are the essential contents of this. So, Bhagavad Gita talks about the 5 essential subject matters. The whole cosmic creation, the cosmos. When we say the cosmos, we mean the whole creation, spiritual and material. What we call in Christianity, we call it heaven or paradise. In the Vedic religion, we call it Vaikuntha. Brahma and the Vaikuntha, everything included. There are only 5 elements which together constitute this whole creation. The very first element of this creation is Ishvara, or the Supreme Absolute Truth, the principle of existence. Aham sarvasya prabhava mattah sarvam pravartate, Krishna says. I am the source of all, everything emanates from me. The Srimad Bhagavatam says, Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yad jnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdate. So, many great scholars and religionists across the world debate with each other on as to the nature of supreme truth and eternal existence. The Srimad Bhagavatam condenses it, and Krishna and Bhagavad Gita explains it in a very brief manner, that I am the source of all existence. Brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdate. That he is Brahman, the all-pervading light of the universe, which Adi Shankara also explains as the eternal existence. The personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, who we know as Vishnu or Krishna or Narayan, and also his reflection within the heart, which we call the Paramatma, or in the Christianity we know it as the Holy Spirit within the heart. So this is the origin of all existence. This Supreme Absolute Truth together is called the Supreme Absolute Truth. Everything emanates from that Absolute Truth. The second principle is the emanation, the primary emanation of this Absolute Truth, that is the living entity, the Jiva. Krishna says in the 7th chapter, I am, every living entity is a part and parcel of me. Every living entity emanates from me, he is my part and parcel. Mamev ansha jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. So, every living entity is a infinitesimal part of the Supreme Lord himself. That's why the Acharyas also say that if you want to understand God, please try to understand yourself and analyze your own nature, your own motivations, and you will get a glimpse of what God is like. Of course, this has to be done under specified training of a qualified Acharya, but you can understand the Lord by understanding your own nature. The Lord is also a person. So that is Jiva, the minute existence, a fragment of the Supreme Lord. Then there is the environment in which we live. It could be spiritual, it could be material. All this we see, this environment, this is called the Prakriti. Devi Yesha Gunamayi Mama Ayadritya, Krishna says. So this material nature, this is an expansion of the Supreme Lord. It is His energy. It is consisting of the three modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. All the solid matter you see, this is a tamoguna or the mode of ignorance. It is put into motion by the mode of passion and is controlled by the mode of goodness. The mind, mana, of every living entity, the source of all desires is the mode of goodness, is under the mode of goodness. So this is the environment of Prakriti. Every action or creation in this material world has a beginning and an end. And that beginning and end of creation and its destruction is known as the time factor. This time factor is not applicable to the soul, it only applies to matter. But the living soul, because he is caught up in this matter, he experiences time. Therefore, we can see that once I was a baby, now I am a man, and maybe sometime in future I'll be a dead body. And then I do not know where I'll be. So, because I am under the illusion that I am this body, I am also experiencing time factor. We can see it very clearly. There's a clock out there. But that is not applicable to the soul, the Atma or the Jiva. Then there is the action. The living entity desires and manifests some action. This whole material manifestation is a result of karma or action. There is action and there is a reaction. You study a book, you take an examination, you become graduate. You kill someone, you are a criminal. Action and reaction. You put a pot of water to boil, put some rice in it, you get boiled rice. Action and its reaction. This is the cause of all this manifestation. Above all of this is the absolute truth. So these five factors, the Ishvara from whom everything emanates, the living entity, the soul, the material manifestation, the time factor, and the desire and actions of the soul. But above all of this, altogether, all these five factors together constitute the absolute truth, or we call as Brahma. This Brahma is manifest in three features: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So the eternal, all permeating light, that is the Brahman factor, the consciousness is Paramatma, and the personality is Ananda. So Sat, Chit, Ananda. This is the manifestation of absolute truth. Not just the Supreme Lord, but every living entity also is a fragment of this truth, and he has aspirations related to this. The material world in which we live right now, this planet Earth, Mars, Venus, the solar system, whatever we call, this is also a complete manifestation. In the Ishopanishad, the Lord says, the Lord is saying, Ishavasya Nidam Sarvam. Everything belongs to the Lord and manifests from Him. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Ivavashishyate. Because it is manifesting from the absolute complete, this material world is also absolutely complete. We do not need any cosmic material to manufacture something here. Everything is complete in itself. The country of Finland is self-sufficient, India is self-sufficient, every part of this world is also self-sufficient to sustain the living of any living entity. The living soul is a part of this absolute truth also. To understand this absolute truth is a process, is not like one cannot really just think of the absolute and become absolute. It is not like this. There is a particular process which is described in the Vedas, which is called the process of yoga. Yoga, actually, you see, Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic knowledge are just common sense. It doesn't belong to a particular part of the world or a particular religion. Vedas, the Gita, they do not belong to just India or to Hindus or to Brahmins or anything. It's universal knowledge meant for all living entities. Veda means knowledge, and the process of realizing the Veda is called yoga. Yoga in Sanskrit simply means to add. Just to add. To add what to what? To add the soul to the Supreme. That is called the process of yoga. And that is delineated in the Bhagavad Gita in great details. In fact, the whole of Bhagavad Gita describes this whole process of yoga and what is to be expected from this yoga. Every living entity is searching for happiness. Ananda. Every living entity searches for this happiness. This process of yoga is to achieve this bliss, this happiness. This yoga process, actually it consists of many arms actually, but as described in the Bhagavad Gita, because the time was too short, so the process starts with the karma, and then it leads to jnana, leads to ashtanga, and eventually to the realization of the absolute. But before we get there, why do we need to do all of this? Now one may ask this question, I am an American or I am a Finn, how does this apply to me? What is the relevance to me? Or even in India, as we see now, sometimes people say, we are modern people. Science and technology has given us everything. We have cars, we have buildings, computers. Why do we need this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita? Why do we need this knowledge of Vedas? So Krishna is explaining in the Bhagavad Gita. Actually, the Vedas explain, first of all, Anandamayo Bhyasa. We are seeking happiness. Everyone is seeking happiness. You don't use these computers or cars just because they're good. You use them because you seek happiness. You may watch a movie here, you may see a website, or you may drive to some pleasant place, or you may live in your apartment with your family. That is to give you happiness. The computer is not giving you happiness, but the knowledge it gives, that is your happiness. So essentially, you are not happy with the computer. The principle of happiness that you get from the computer is what you're seeking. Anandamayo Bhyasa. Every living entity, not just the human beings, even the earthworm crawling in the ground, the cockroaches, the dogs, the trees, they're all seeking happiness. But the search for happiness is very difficult. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukha doshanu darshanam. This is what Krishna is explaining in the 13th chapter of Gita. That in spite of all your attempts at happiness, there is always anxiety. You have a beautiful child, but you are always worried that the child may fall sick, someone may kidnap the child may have an accident. You have a nice job, but you are worried that if you don't perform, the boss may sack you or the condition may become unfavorable. You have a beautiful body, but you are worried that this body may grow old and may not look pleasant. That's why we have so many beauty care products. People color their hair, they have these hair implants. Why? Because we are seeking happiness from this body, but the body is not giving us that happiness. There is always that anxiety, that fear in this world. This desire for happiness is common to all living entities, but it is not getting fulfilled. The living entity suffers in this material world. So the yoga, the process of yoga, is to help us get out of this cycle of birth and death, is to help us get out of this cycle of misery. Yoga is not a luxury, it's not a hobby. Yoga is a necessity. All those who are important, yajanti sumetasha, those who are important, they will practice this method and try to get out of this cycle of birth and death. This perfection of yoga, this is in different steps. Karma, jnana, ashtanga, and bhakti. There are different steps of yoga. So for instance, Arjuna asked the same question to Krishna. So Krishna explains the whole process of yoga and sannyas. So Arjuna says that, my dear Krishna, whatever you speak is difficult for me to understand. You're talking about renunciation, you're talking about brahmacharya, leaving the whole world, everything. I cannot do that. I'm a prince. I'm fighting a war. I'll be a king now. So how can I practice what you're saying? So Krishna smiles and he says, no, this is not how it is. The process is a scientific process. Yoga doesn't mean that you have to live in some Himalayas, wear some deer skin and just sit with half closed eyes. That is also yoga, but yoga is a big process. It starts with karma. Slow process of detachment from this material nature. Sacrifice of material elements. So whatever you do, Krishna says, yat karoshi yad ashnasi yat juhoshi dadasi yat. Whatever you eat, whatever you do, whatever you are giving, whatever austerity you are performing, do it as a sacrifice unto me. So if you are earning money, you can give a small portion of that earning for the service of the Lord. Even in Christianity, there is this principle of tithe. 10% of your earnings are for the Lord. And we anyway sacrifice so much for others. You sacrifice for your wife or your husband or your child or so many things. You sacrifice money, you sacrifice time. So a little bit you sacrifice for the Lord. And if you offer something to the Lord, like this young girl was saying, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yo Me Bhaktya Prayachati, a fruit, a flower, a leaf, or water at least. Even the poorest man can afford some water. You can all do that as an offering unto me. That is the beginning of the yoga process, karma yoga. By doing that sacrifice, that little sacrifice, you develop knowledge. And that knowledge is called jnana. You develop the knowledge of the absolute. And when that knowledge is sufficiently fructified, you are ready to leave this world before death takes you. And then you can practice what is called Ashtanga Yoga, or the Eightfold Yoga process, in which you meditate only on the Supreme within the heart, the Paramatma, along with your own soul, and you are ready to purify yourself. But in this age of Kali Yuga, or the age of disturbance, human life is very short. It's very difficult to practice the Ashtanga Yoga system. Therefore, the process in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that amongst all the sacrifices, I am the sacrifice of chanting. Of all the processes of sacrifices, chanting is me. That's my process. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the Kali Santarana Upanishad, it is said, Harer Nam Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastye Gatir Anitha. That in this age of Kali, it's very difficult to practice this kind of renunciation and detachment from this world. Therefore, the only practice is remembering the Supreme Lord. Harer Nam Eva Kevalam. Therefore, you see all the religious processes of this world, they describe the chanting of holy names, whether it's chanting on the rosary beads or the Muslim tasbih, or in our Vedic tradition, there are so many chanting with so many names of the Supreme Lord. Nam Akari Bahudha Nija Sarvashakti, Tattarpita Niyamita Smarane Nakala. So there are so many names. So there are so many traditions in India which are chanting the names of the Lord. Even Adi Shankaracharya, the great Acharya of the Sharirat Bhashya philosophy, even he says, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Moolamate, Samprapte Sannihita Kale, Nahi Rakshati Dukkhan Karani. So do not waste your time in acquiring so many different fields of knowledge, but just remember the Supreme Lord. So at the time of death, that remembrance is what is going to help you. And this yoga process is very simple. The chanting of the holy names is very simple. Anyone can do it. The Ashtanga Yoga process is very difficult if you have a female body, because the female body is not ready to take that kind of suffering which a yogi has to take. In fact, in this present age, there is hardly any living human being who can practice Ashtanga Yoga properly, with that level of detachment and the suffering that the body has to take. There are so many stories in the Vedas. For example, Chavan Rishi, when he performed Ashtanga Yoga, his body was covered over by an anthill, by these little white ants, and they were eating his flesh also. When Hiranyakashipu, the great demon, was performing this austerity, he performed such hard austerity that all his flesh fell off. His life was sustained only in his bone, and only his head had remained. So such austerities are not practiced anymore. Or we hear the story of Shaubhari Muni. For 60,000 years he was sitting underwater, and all his flesh had practically melted away. So we cannot tolerate that kind of austerity, not in this age. So the chanting of the holy names is a prescribed process in all these sampradayas, in all the processes of India. For example, in Maharashtra, there is the Varkari Sampradaya, Ramakrishna Hari, they chant only this. In South India, Namo Narayana, Sri Sampradaya. Or in our process, we chant the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this is the process that was given by Lord Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya in the year 1500. And this is the process that we are following. There are many other processes. We teach this form of Bhakti Yoga. There are many other forms, and all are bona fide, all are equally powerful. You are free to go anywhere else, but this is the science that we teach here. But this science has to be learned from a qualified acharya. Evam parampara praptam, imam rajarashayo vidu, Krishna is telling in the 4th chapter of Gita. He tells Arjuna that, my dear Arjuna, this knowledge has been coming unbroken from the ancient times. So the Vedic knowledge cannot be acquired simply by buying a book and reading it, though that's a good point to start. You need the guidance of a qualified teacher who can guide you through this whole process, who can help you achieve the perfection of your life. So in the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, we have many centers and many teachers who are teaching you the science of bhakti. You're most welcome to take a copy of Bhagavad Gita and start reading it today. It's very easy. It's written in very easy language. It's very self-explanatory. And if you have any further questions and if you want to develop this knowledge further, we are always here to help you. So this was our spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who started this movement around 60 years ago in New York. And since then, the tradition has been going on unbroken. We have Bhagavad Gita available in many, many languages of the world. And it's available everywhere. We have many qualified teachers who teach this science. You're most welcome to ask us any questions on the Bhagavad Gita or related subject matter. And we'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you very much. So, if you have any questions or comments related to the subject, yes.
Krishna. Yeah, well, I first of all, very nice speech. And I want to give all glories to Radha Krishna Lal and every devotee, real devotees, and whoever you are. But I have one, it's a question and also another question at the same time. According to you said the Ashtanga and yoga, all the yoga systems. You know Guru Nanak?
Yes.
Yes. So he also went to spread this message of bhakti. So he went to, I don't remember, Tibet area or somewhere there. And people were doing a lot of Ashtanga, a lot of like very severe penances.
Yes.
And then he told them, who is better? You doing your Ashtanga or a householder doing seva? You know, what is better? Like one who is serving the family, the community, loving devotional transcendental service, or you who are in the cave? There's nothing wrong to be in a cave if you're searching for yourself, but if you're just because of your pride and ego. So my question, or not even a question, can you clarify the best route of yoga, meaning bhakti, or can you tell a summary, or just what is the best, like you said also, Namjap, like remembering the Lord, but can you tell about bhakti, just in that what it is, versus Ashtanga?
See, the process of yoga is eventually to develop love of God. The yogic process is, I will just tell you very briefly, the process of yoga is very simply explained in the Bhagavad Gita. The yogi merges his body in the mode of ignorance, his mind, his actions in the mode of passion, his mind into the mode of goodness, and he merges his ego in Brahman, and thus he attains liberation. Now you can imagine how difficult that process is. When a knife cuts my finger in the kitchen, that's mode of ignorance taking away its part, and it's very painful. Yogis give up this whole body to the mode of ignorance. They merge all the constituents of existence into different respective origins. That's very difficult, especially if your mind is disturbed all the time. So in this age of Kali, only Nama Sankirtan, only chanting of the holy names.
And that will develop
Yes.
love.
Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. Cheto Darpana Marjanam, it will purify your consciousness. Simply if you continue to chant the holy names, your consciousness will be completely purified. 100%.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Maybe what I would connect with, let's say, how we experience or take a learning of Gita in our life. So it has been 18 chapters, each chapter, each verses has a huge learning. And then first of all, let's say I will connect with the two things. First is, let's say, as he has mentioned, it was a great service to society when it was translated to the different languages. And I have read Gita in my mother tongue. I have listened from my father I've read in my mother tongue. So to be honest, if you ask me which shlok, I might not be able to tell in Sanskrit, but what we have done is it's just in the mother tongue. So that's a great service. I totally acknowledge that. It's also a service that has been offered by ISKCON. Still, many countries, many parts of the world. So let's say first chapter, second chapter. Let's talk about a little bit of second chapter, the Sankhya road. When we said this, as Arjun is telling about his why we should kill the people, and he's confused and so forth. What does the teaching it is giving? And when let's say when I'm working with the business and so forth, we have quite many of us, our businessmen, we are going through the trainings and so forth. So we are listening of what is confirmation bias. So now, why not to fight? At the end moment, when you see the things are coming in front of you, it's a huge battle in front of you. There are many fighters are there. You need to put, the sweat and blood out there. Then your mind is looking after how do I, get away from this? This is something, that's a confirmation bias. He's making arguments. I'm sure that those are valid arguments. They are kith and kins and so forth. But still, at that point of time, as you correctly mentioned, the Guru, the Acharya, that was Krishna at that point of time. Krishna Mande Jagat Guru, he guided him back. Okay, what you are doing is not exactly thinking about kith and kin at the moment, but you are staying away or going away from your duties. So that is one very nice under interpretation what I have learned. And then as simplified version how we read Gita, and then there is a interpretation behind it. This is one of them what we learn. Second, I think he was also mentioning that whatever duties is assigned to you or has been you are inculcated with so far, you should stick to it. I don't recall which chapter it is. It is coming later, fourth or fifth chapter, and this is kind of a message it is. And how it is relevant? I mean, if Arjun on that moment, who is a fighter, who is supposed to fight, if he is thinking that I should empathize with the people and then start nursing, then that doesn't help. So you should stick to your duties that has been assigned and so forth. And then thirdly, maybe a short one. It is also something related to I can correlate with my routine life and business and working what we do. The very nice shloka has been given, and then you given a brief translation. If you see simple translation, okay, you do the work, and then we don't know whether the fruits or the results are coming or not. Now, if you think a little bit differently, it's going deeper into the management here. That if you are working, just keeping the results in the mind, and there are many factors which you can't influence. So sure, it can come positive or negative, either in favor of you or not. Now, when the results are coming, either you can be disappointed or accomplished. In both cases, I mean, you are behind the results, you either achieve, don't achieve, you are broken, or you are accomplished, now not getting it forward. But if you are part of the process and then just thinking, give me my best and so forth, so that you keep you moving and then help you to go further after the goal, setting up the next, and then keep on going the process. So this was kind of one management lesson I was listening, and that was taking a reference of Gita and so forth. So there are many such kind of verses. So just thinking that, thank you so much, ISKCON, for helping the people understand what does that mean. I've been reading and then listening very famous or YouTube channel actually. There are some saints lectures are also there. So they have been listening from Mumbai, ISKCON itself. So this has been well understood by them. So thank you.